One of the biggest problems with winter content is, well, it's winter. And not very good for making content. That's why the star of this show is going to be these two guys. Well, we're going to pay no attention to that one, but it's going to be this one. And today we're going to look at things you can print for your vehicle with a standard 3D printer, and maybe why you should get a 3D printer. So stay tuned. Now I want to preface this by saying that this video is not going to be about how to set up your 3D printer or any of the settings or what filaments to use. It's nothing to do with that, because I'm not the best at it, and there are plenty of other channels that will show you. All I'm doing here today is showing you that there are plenty of practical things that if you have a 3D printer or something simple like this Ender 3 Pro, V2, you can print things that you can use in your everyday rig, whether it be my charger or my Jeep or even just for around the house. It's something simple like you saw in the beginning, like a holder for Ryobi batteries. That particular one broke while taking it off the build plate, so we're going to print another one. The first place I'd recommend going is a website called Thingiverse by MakerBot. And this is probably one of the easiest websites to navigate. It's not always up and working, but when it is, you can find anything. So let's type in Jeep. And these are all the items that somebody has shared. They're STL files, and STL is a file we're going to use to design and what's called slice a print. So we start with an STL. Look at this stuff. Any one of these things can be printed. And as a good example, this is what I actually just printed. And as you see, here's a picture of the completed product. Hey, very similar to how I was going to mount mine. And there's some different pictures down there of what it's going to look like when you're done. But how do we get this to a 3D printer? First thing you need to have is a micro SD card for the printer. And I have that in a little adapter right here. A little 8 gig card ready to go. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at the notes real quick to see what we've got to know. This guy printed his on a Lulzbot, some kind of printer, something, I don't know. Supports, no. Infill 15. Alright, so those are the only two things we need out of this are supports, no, and Infill 15. So right here, download all files. It's going to take you to the downloads. And we had two different versions. There is this flat version and there's a 2x3 version. This particular one, because they had one that fits pegboard, was the 2x3, and then the flat one just had some more narrow brackets. I chose the 2x3 version. You just click download. And I already have this on my desktop. So I'm going to show you what we do next, which is, as you can see, it's saved to my desktop. And we'll open it up. The program I'm using is called Ultimaker Cura. Now, this is where you guys are going to have to set up your printer. You're going to have to set some settings in here. This is where the variables really come into, but I'm going to give you a basic breakdown on how I print stuff. So now I have this file. It's in here. I set my little infill. I set my profile the way I want it to be. Let's see. We don't care. We'll do a 0.2. That's, if you see, that's standard quality up here at the top. We can change between 16, which is a better quality, but we're going to stick with 0.2. We had a 60% infill. I mean, they were saying we could do as low as 15%, but I'll keep it down at 20. All this said and done, remove our adhesion because we don't really need that. We didn't need supports, but the breakdown here is simply that button right there is what all you're going to care about. So you got your thing on the plate, you've done your settings, and you hit this guy right here. Slice. I'll tell you, this thing's going to take 3 hours and 40 minutes to print. Now, you could change these settings around and do some stuff to bring that print time down. You can mess with it all you want, but I just print it exactly as it is. So what you'll do is you'll click this whole Save to Removable Drive, and it'll save it to your little SD card. Just verify it did. And you click Eject, and then you go and stick your SD card back in your machine. Now we're going to go do that, and we'll print one more. Why not? We simply put our SD card back in, select the file, and you'll see it's doing its preheating. The bottom number, that's your bed temp. Come up to 60 degrees, and if you put your hand on it, you'll see, ooh, it's a little toasty. And you'll see our hot end, which is our nozzle, is up to 103 out of 205. And once that hits 205, it'll start to print.
My calculations are correct. When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
And first thing I'll do is start by probing the bed, if you have a bed level sensor. And then what it'll do is something called a wipe line, which usually means it's just clearing out that first little bit of stuff from the filament. And it'll squirt a little bit out and you'll see a line form. Just kind of clearing the nozzle, making sure everything is ready to go. And then it'll start to lay down your project. As you can see, I have a little bit of leveling issues going on here because these are too small. So what I'm going to end up having to do is change my Z offset. Again, this is part of the fun of learning how to use these. Everything is a learning experience with them. You got to take the time and learn how to correct small errors like this when they first appear. But I tell you, this is way too close. We're going to change it up and print it again. And already I can tell you we're getting a much better line that we're building. It doesn't look like it's mashing a nozzle into the bed. And we'll be able to do some live adjustments if we still have problems. As you can see, our line is already getting much better. Although our filament is stringing, something we're going to have to look at. But this will form a much nicer print when it's done. We could even tweak it further. At this point, I'm just going to let it print. I think it's going to come out perfect. And just like that, we made a thing. And this thing will be perfect for something. But seriously speaking, this is, I made this for mounting my Ryobi batteries. And this is a 2x3, so it fits pegboard. And this is the fun part. This is actually kind of fun. It's hard to do one-handed, but let's pretend. Oh, through the miracle of editing. Anyway. This is going to be mounted... No, not yeah. Right, maybe here. Doesn't really matter. This is part of something you can do in your downtime when it's snowing and blowing outside to build things for your vehicle or any kind of modification you want to do to something. Like I could even mount this in the back of the Commander and put some batteries back there to go with my air pump and whatever. I can't help you buy a printer. That's something you're going to have to do on your own. I do recommend the Ender 3. It's a relatively inexpensive printer. It does some pretty amazing things. This is easy to set up. Anybody can do this. And they're relatively inexpensive. That's why I have two. I paid $125 for that one 2 years ago, and I used the heck out of it. And then this Christmas, I said, you know what? That machine... I had modified this machine to the point where it no longer printed well because I have so many modifications. And I got real lazy when it came to getting this machine working correctly. And that's why we just bought a brand new machine, because they're relatively inexpensive. I'll fix this machine and get it going again. But for right now, this thing can print reliably. I can print this print 100 times and I don't have to set much up. I have something called a BL Touch Auto Leveler. And it works pretty good once you set it up. However, again, you're limited only by what you can imagine. And just a quick example of some of the stuff you can print. This is for my wife's Cricut. It holds her mats, her print mats, something like that on pegboard. This was probably the first print that came out of this printer. And then I printed this entire Ryobi. No, not really. I printed these nozzles though for the end of the blower. And I printed a whole bunch of them. So you have different styles, different shapes. I don't know. Well, a couple of these are the same shape because I printed a bunch of them. But yeah, I don't know what they do. I don't know if they'd make it any better. But they were cool to print, and somehow they'll turn this regular inflator into something I can use regularly. I also have this, which is a mag light holder. Mounts anywhere you want to mount it, and holds a mag light in place. I can't even tell you where you can use these. They're probably one of the most useful things I've printed, and they have these built-in reliefs so that they can flex when you install the mag light, and they grab pretty good. They probably need a little tweaking, but to be honest with you, this is probably about an hour's worth of printing, and surface has come out okay. It could be a little cleaner. So I printed another one with a cleaner surface. I printed it in green. And you saw these nozzles already. But we can also print other cool things. I'm also into toys. I buy a lot of toys. Mostly Transformers from my youth.
The Transformers, more than meets the eye. The Transformers, robots in disguise.
Call in an Decepticon later!
Transformers.
This, as some of you recognize, is Optimus Prime's blaster. And if you notice, it's not so good on this side. It's pretty good on this side. So, I did it again. My results were pretty much the same. But, once I started messing around with the print settings and I printed it in a different way, I ended up with a pretty much 95% good blaster. And this fits directly in Prime's hands. And it's pretty darn accurate. The hands that I actually have on my Optimus Prime were printed as well. And they came out even better than these. They came out almost perfect. You can print amazing things, even like my Metroplex hands up there. They are also 3D printed. I don't feel like taking them down to show you, but so many things you can do with the 3D printer. Yeah, I collect a lot of stuff.
I present to you the collector.
Some of the other things you can print for your 3D printer, aside from all that, are parts to actually improve your 3D printer. So for my older model here, I printed this, which actually holds a Wise Cam, a little $20 Wise Cam, in place, and this was all printed. I think it was a 5-hour print. And you can print fan shrouds for your printer that sit on here. Now, again, I told you I have this one apart. But even this one that I just put together, I printed this to mount this Wise Cam on this side. And I printed this, which guides my filament around so it doesn't make a sharp angle into the extruder. And even better, on this extruder, I printed this knob. And this knob is actually factory on this, but back in the day, you could print your own and upgrade your printer. This is just a brief overview of the things you can do when you have a nice snowy day out with a 3D printer and you're only limited to what you can find. Once you set your printer up, it's pretty easy to just continually print and print and print and print and print. Every one of these, except for these, even the word Ryobi here, were printed with no issues and with no change in settings. Literally set it up once, and every time I click it, as long as I clean the bed, clean the surface, it's magnetic. Every time I clean it, I'm able to reprint. Settings are dialed in, filaments dialed in. I have other filaments here ready to go, different colors. I have a red. This stuff is easy to do once you set it up and let it ride. So anyway, that was just a brief content filler for a snowy day. I wanted to put something out there for you guys since I have been missing in action. But again, it's just the weather's been crap, and I really don't do a lot during the winter as far as outside. Once the temperature gets below 25 degrees with no heat in the shop, besides the little heater you've seen in other videos, I just don't bother because there's really nothing to get done. The Commander's reliable as can be. Reliable as can be. Why did you say that? Why'd you just say that? and everything else just runs and drives. Anyway, that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Maybe we'll do something cool next time. If you like this video, give me a like, and consider subscribing, because we do really cool stuff like this all the time. Thanks for watching.